The question now is...
But we have seen Constitution amendment exercises. We have never seen an attempt to legalize the ECA with the amendment of the Constitution.
No, you can't. Where do you want to make it to do what? The Constitution says that the funds coming in, and that is superior. It says that the funds coming in should be distributed to you, and you.
If I get very clearly,
going to make a law again,
just a moment, Honorable, what the Constitution says is that the funds coming in, all funds coming in need to go to a federation account.
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Yes.
The excess crude account, isn't it
it's
separate?
Part of the,
isn't it separate from the federation account?
No, it's not.
It's federation account.
It's federation account. That's why the whole...
How come is it then that the National Assembly has never appropriated funds from the excess crude?
No, those funds, are, because they are part of the federation account, they are taken into account. When the funds come in to that account, it's like the one that is not excess. When it comes in, they are shared according to
what were the principal officers of the National Assembly referring to when they said that the excess crude account was illegal, if indeed it's part of the federation account?
Yeah, if the funds... Federation account means counts for all the states, the local governments, and every person. That means that, yes, it's not federal government account. That means that the federal government cannot dip its hand into that fund. That fund is supposed to be distributed to the tiers of government. The way the funds that are not excess are distributed. Each time when they sit, each time FAC sits, what it does is that it distributes the funds that have come in. And if you check the newspapers, you will see that when those excess crude accounts have accumulated, they are also distributed to the tiers of government. And the federal government, in this case, the federal government can only spend its own part. And even its own part, it cannot spend without putting an appropriation.
Honorable member, you know, to the mind of a discerning Nigerian listening to you, it sounds as though you conveniently legalize in your rationale the account when it's suitable to the National Assembly's purposes, but when it's not, it becomes illegal. So the question is, what is it? Is it legal or is it not?
Your question is confusing me because the fact of the matter is that whether it is excess or non-excess, it belongs to the federation. It's part of the money that the FAC sits down every month to share. What it simply is that the benchmark for this year's budget is $50 per barrel. Now you are selling at 53 barrels. You already made a plan. So the so-called excess is supposed to be a temporary thing that the funds. It's all part of the federation. So it's not that I don't think there's an account sitting somewhere with someone with authority to sign and spend, which is why this controversy is
what we understood when President Obasanjo conceived, I think then with Finance Minister Okonjo-Iweala conceived the excess crude account, was to ensure that whenever it was that there was a shortfall in the price of crude, the country did not suffer and was able to make up, as we did see in the time of President Yar'Adua. Isn't that correct, Honorable? Where there was a shortfall in the price of crude, and how the country was able to make up was by relying on the excess crude account.
Which is in the federation account.
So when you say that it is part of the money that is shared every month, some people will say that that is not how it operates.
That is how the money, the federal government cannot on its own go and spend that money. Even if it is used at the time of need, it is brought back to the same FAC to distribute it according to the Constitution.
Let me bring in Captain Bish here. Captain, you have listened to the controversy so far. Some people will say that all that has happened so far is politics. Because we did see in that meeting, the NEC meeting in December, after governors did meet with the Vice President and a number of other ministers in attendance, the governors themselves agreed. And then all of a sudden, we heard much later some governors saying, no, we will give the money, but we must remove the, what they call that now, the 13% derivation for our state. We're not giving the 13%. And some governors say, no, that money is not for security. It is coming too soon towards an election year. Should arguments like that matter?
Of course, anytime you're spending money, money has to be debated. You don't just issue out a blank check and say, go and spend this. In a country that has been acknowledged both locally and internationally, and which the president himself has agreed, that is fantastically corrupt. The president said we have to kill corruption, or corruption will kill Nigeria. So you issue out a $1 billion blank check, just go and buy anything you want.
No, is that what we have been told? I mean, do you think that the governors would have said, well, go and buy anything you want, you can use our money and do that?
We want to see the line items, okay? We want to know how much is going to the Air Force, how much is going to the Navy, how much is going to the Army. What is it that they're using the money for? Is it for training? Is it for procurement of equipment?
Captain Johnson,
let me finish. Let me finish.
Let me land.
Can I just finish? Just give me one second.
You will finish your thought. You come from the United States Army. That's where your experience was.
Correct.
So you know very well that under no circumstance would the U.S. Army detail line by line exactly what it's purchasing for theaters of conflict.
That is where you are wrong. I was opportune to be a company commander. The way the U.S. defense budget is prepared is bottom up. Towards the beginning of every fiscal year...
I'm not talking about the budget. I'm talking about what's made public. That's what I'm referring to.
It's funding. Whatever funding it is bottom up. Towards the beginning of every fiscal year, we get a template from the big army, what we call the big army, from Washington, D.C. It comes all the way to company level. Every unit in the United States Army has what is called TOE, Table of Organization and Equipment. It details all equipment and personnel, the level of training that they will have for every particular unit of the Army. So if you are going to make your request, it's going to be based on that tool. You don't go and buy equipment that you don't need that is not listed there. That is why you have, if I have an infantry unit that belongs to a particular brigade, and there's another infantry unit that belongs to a different brigade, all of them will have similar tool because they carry out the same mission.
These are internal.
This is what informs the funding. You don't just wake up and say, look, just give us $1 billion, let us just go and spend it. You don't just do that. Now, coming back to the issue, the question that you guys keep asking the Honorable, look, whether the money is in SS crude account or is in any account, in every democracy, every revenue accruing to the government has to be appropriated by the people's representative, which in our own case is our National Assembly. If this president has sent in a bill, maybe call it emergency defense spending bill, the onus will be on the National Assembly to come back from recess because it's an emergency and debate that bill. But they did not do that. He gave an approval, therefore constituting himself into an absolute monarch or a dictator, which is why this opposition is, you see this opposition coming too. If he had sent that bill to the National Assembly, he would have satisfied his own obligation. And we won't be doing this debate.
Can I explain something?
This debate we're having right now.
I want to explain something on that. Just a minute. You see, the question that you've raised, and I think we need to clarify it. The best practice, if you read your history book, read your political books, you go and interact. I've interacted with, since we got international, with related security committees in the United States, in UK, in Europe, and some African countries. There is nowhere in the world, no democracy, that president wakes up and says, I've given money to military to spend, without specifying to parliament for approval of, not just approval of the line items. Let me explain something to you. In countries like Poland and the rest of them, Germany and some of them, when you want to do your defense spending, it's the same thing in the US. Up to the stage of selecting the vendors that will supply those items.
Of course.
You discuss, you sit down with the appropriate committees to go through them, to accept them. You don't just say, go and buy. Which was why in the past they went and bought...
Honourable Member, I want to just be very, very clear here. When I addressed my question to Captain Johnson, in no way was I asserting that the President doesn't have a responsibility to engage with the National Assembly concerning the line items.
Okay.
What I was saying is that in the United States, under no circumstance would the United States President get this, send those line item details to, for example, the New York Times to show Americans what those funds are being spent on. And that's what I was referring to, not the internal apparatus.
Okay. No, the United States
If you look at the defense expenditure of
just a moment,
the United States.
Gentlemen, before you clarify that, let's quickly go to Lagos now and hear what Nyota and Gimba have to say.